여러분 많이 기다렸습니다. 박상훈 작가님의 멋진 이야기 들어보았고요. 바로 이어서 2017 Better Together C-Talk Global 이어가도록 하겠습니다. 저는 어제 이어서 오늘 사회를 맡은 아나운서 정샘입니다. 반갑습니다. Welcome to the 2017 Better Together C-Talk Global. My name is Sammy Jung and I'll be hosting today's program. 자, 어제와 더불어서 오늘도 역시나 서로 다른 전문성과 다양한 경험을 가진 너무나도 특별한 분들 이 무대에 모셔볼 텐데요. 총 8분의 글로벌 리더 어벤져스 어제와 오늘 함께 하고 있습니다. 자, 어제는 르완다의 유명 뮤지션이자 또 Forgiveness 캠페인, 용서 캠페인을 전개하고 있었던 장폴 삼푸투, 우주학자이자 또 영성학자인 주드 커리반 박사, 평화혁명 프로젝트를 리드하고 있는 핑핑 워라케이트, 그리고 뉴욕 I Love You, 파리 주템과 같은 시리즈를 제작한 임마누엘 반비히 제작자님 만나보았었죠. 자, 그리고 오늘은 역시 너무나도 특별한 분들 바로 소개를 해드리도록 하겠습니다. 자, 예멘의 첫 여성 영화 제작자인 카디자 al-Salami, 그리고 한국에서도 정말 베스트셀러로 많이 읽혔죠. 미움받을 용기의 저자이자 아들러 심리학자 대가인 기시미 이치로 선생님, 그리고 로봇계의 다빈치라 불리는 유쾌상쾌 독의 에너지를 전해주시는 데니송 박사, 그리고 뉴욕 타임스퀘어에서 공공의 공간을 예술의 공간으로 변모시키고 있는 데브라 시몬까지 함께합니다. 자, 2017 Better Together 공감이란 주제로 바로 이어가도록 하겠습니다. 첫 번째 연사, 11살의 어린 나이에 부모님이 결정한 정혼을 해야 했던 카디자 al-Salami 님의 이야기 바로 들어보도록 하겠습니다. 그리고 지금 이 자리에 계신 분들 가운데서 통역이 필요하신 분들, 의자에 통역 수신기 자리하고 있습니다. 1번이 한국어고요, 2번 영어, 3번 일본어 쓰실 수 있습니다. At today's program, we provide simultaneous interpretation in 3 different languages. Channel 1 is Korean, Channel 2 English, and Channel 3 Japanese. So for those of you who need the translation, feel free to use the receiver placed on your chair. 자, 바로 이어서 그러면 첫 번째 연사분 이야기 들어보도록 하겠습니다. 고통스러운 경험이 어떻게 나를 공감하는 사람으로 만들어 주었나? Ladies and gentlemen, let me have the honor of introducing you to the first Yemeni female film producer, Khadija al-Salami.
Thank you. We all know that we don't choose where we come from, nor do we choose our parents. I was a child. All I wanted was to have a normal, happy childhood. But destiny chose otherwise for me. I grew up in a family where my father was mentally ill. And as a child, I witnessed all kinds of violence against my mother, who was beaten every day by my sick father. One day, he slit her tongue in front of me, and she was taken to the emergency ward of the hospital. It was a horrifying experience. My grandfather also treated her unjustly and forced her to pay rent and stay in a small dark room with her 3 kids after being kicked out of my father's house. And he did everything he could to block her demand for a divorce. As a child, I was traumatized by what's happening around me. But then, when I started school, I knew that my life would change, and school became my refuge from the daily problems and abuses at home. But it did not take long for my family to decide to marry me off at the age of 11 and take me out of school. I was devastated and found myself alone fighting my family, who was supposed to protect me. I was fighting the whole society for my basic rights to education and to live my childhood, which I never had. I won't go into details about my comeback against my family to obtain a divorce, etc. But I just wanted to make a point here. It is awful that a child has to go through so much pain and sorrow because of ignorance, greed, and also all the bad tradition, an acceptable one. And as a child, has to struggle alone to overcome all odds and obstacles, which is not easy. However, in my case, when people ask me how I was able to make it in the end, even my family now, who had broken me to pieces earlier on, cannot believe how I have triumphed over them. They are still perplexed about it until this day. I guess when I found myself living in such an unjust life and such a situation, instinctively I simply rejected it without thinking about it. A child doesn't think but reacts, and that's what I did and what I still do until today. It became a habit not to think, but to follow my own heart and react spontaneously to situations. Although at that time there was no outside influence in Yemen, it is not like nowadays where kids have access to social media and information. During my generation, Yemen was closed to the outside world, and education for girls was considered to be a dangerous one. But I knew that education would save me because it was the key to happiness and success. And I knew that I did not want to live the life that my mother had lived. I wanted to live as a dignified human being who is free, who has rights and duties, and I want to take responsibility for my own life. Indeed, I succeeded after a long fight. I could have left my life to destiny and become a victim and complain about this unfair life. But I choose to be stronger than my pain and obstacles, and I choose to challenge them, learn from them, and to take advantage of them to my own benefits. What I have been through in my life made me who I am today. I wonder if my childhood had been a happier one, if I would be the same person I am today, sensible, sensitive, and more empathetic towards other people. And I also ask myself, I would have dedicated my life to fight for the rights of other human beings who do not have the same character as I do, and who are afraid to speak out and claim their rights. Would I also be empathetic in my films toward those who have committed crimes toward their children by marrying them off at an early age? I try to put myself in their shoes and to see life from their perspective to better understand their behavior. At the same time, I would like to help them become more aware of their traditional customs and help them see how these customs have contributed to their misery. In the other word, to educate them in order to bring about change in their lives and in the lives of their families. When I was a child, I hated my family for what they have done to me and put me through, and I was so ashamed of what had happened to me and ashamed of them. So when I received a scholarship to continue my studies in the US, I was extremely happy for once in my life. I promised myself that I would never go back to my country and never see these people. I just wanted to get out of the place where I had never spent one day without crying and never a day without people telling me what was right for me. Then I went to the US. I discovered what freedom was all about. I met different people from different backgrounds, cultures, ethnics, and religions. It was an amazing experience, and I learned how to respect and accept others and appreciate them. My education in the US helped me to think of my family and its traditions and have a reflection in what had happened to me. I put my anger aside and become more rational. I thought of my grandmother and my mother, who loved me dearly, but at the same time, they were just obeying the traditions that had been dictated to them and accepting the unjust treatment because they grew up with certain values and traditions and they thought they were right. So I thought for a minute and realized that those people were not monsters, nor were they bad. They only obeyed that they had been taught for generations. My mother and my grandmother never had an education, as no school existed for women or for men until the 60s. So I felt somehow, since I had the chance to be educated, it was now my turn, and my responsibility to transform what I had learned and to show them that I was capable, if not only be useful to myself, but to the whole family, and I hope to the rest of the society. I decided after finishing my studies to go back to Yemen and start educating them through my camera and tackle all kinds of sensitive issues. It was hard and risky, but I assure you it has already made a great difference on the life of many women. The first thing that drives me to make my films is that I identify with the person I make the subject about, as I see myself on them. At the beginning, I only wanted to tell their stories and give them a chance and give them a voice, but then I found myself getting involved, fighting for their rights in addition to filming them. Professionals in film business have told me this is not the role of a filmmaker, who should make sure there is a distance between them and the subject they are dealing with. But I cannot help getting involved personally with them. Because when I see another human being has to undergo so many injustice, I become that person. An example of this could be illustrated when I made the film about a woman prisoner called Amina. I want to show you her picture. Oh, it's not working. Oh, sorry. I'll go forward. That's her. So when this woman was sentenced to death, she was accused of killing her husband. But then when I started filming her, I found out that she was a victim. She confronted all kinds of abuses. So I decided to fight for her and for her rights. She was supposed to be executed a few weeks after I made the film. But then that I took the stand to be next to her, I fought for her death sentence to be waived. After that was granted, I continued to fight for a year and a half, and I was able to get her out of prison. And other women as well that I met in prison. Once a topic like this had been extremely taboo by society, shocked so many people, at the same time, it cultivated empathy toward women prisoners who had once been the ones who were to blame. I also discovered that through films, you don't only bring awareness, but also cultivate empathy. At the beginning of my life, I was considered to be the bad example and the one not to follow. Now, many women and also men, not only those of my own family, but also from many other families, though they were initially not convinced, they now want their daughters to follow in my footsteps. Later on, when I had the chance to go to France, I discovered not only the French culture and its rich heritage, but also my own culture through the eyes of French architect and archaeologist. I had been totally unaware of this before I met them because of our poor educational system that doesn't focus on culture. I was fascinated by the treasure and the diversity of our culture. This can illustrate in some, this is where the city I grew up, called Sana'a. The houses you've seen, it's made 500 years ago, that's what they're saying. These pictures are taken by the French, and that's how I discovered the beauty and the architecture of that country. These are the first skyscraper made by mud 500 years ago. It existed then in Yemen. So the fact I have rejected my life in Yemen made me more drawn to other cultures, but I had become blind to my own culture. It is the other way around usually. We tend to be afraid and suspicious of those strangers who are different from us. Being more curious about other foreign culture helped me to discover our commonalities. And I found that our differences are a source of our wealth as human beings. In my case, and other people's cases, traveling and being open and curious to meet different people and embracing their culture is a way to cultivate empathy. Another way is organizing events like this one, which enable us in all these meetings to interact with each other, exchange ideas, and learn from one another. I also think that experience we have in life shapes our personality. So it's up to us to pick ourselves up and find meaning in our lives as human. We don't have to suffer or go through pain in order to foster a culture of empathy. We all have to do is to open ourselves up to what's different from us, try to understand it and appreciate it, and try to see life from the other's perspective. If we reject prejudices and reach towards each other and help each other to turn something that could be ugly into something beautiful and inspiring, our world would be a better place for all humanity. Unfortunately, many cultures have created boundaries and conditioned generation for the population to have certain beliefs and dogmas, to think and act in a certain way, and to value certain attitudes. This had made the people think that they are the only ones to hold the truth, and all those who think differently are evil. To put yourself in others' shoes or to try experience things as others do, not easy. And I don't believe one can automatically cultivate empathy overnight. It is surely easier if it starts from early childhood with parents, teachers, valuing this attitude. Maybe when our education put more value on this aspect, and when we tell our children that each human being on this earth is unique and has a capacity to contribute to our world and make it healthier, more beautiful, meaningful, and peaceful place for all humanity. If we bring up our children as individuals who are able to find peace within themselves and who are conscious, and we are willing to go beyond their limitation of identification, to see each person as a human being and to see that our differences add colors and dimension to our lives, we will succeed to reach a culture of empathy and live in a more peaceful world. Thank you.
자, 카디자 알살라미님의 용기 넘치는 슬프고도 하지만 희망을 전해주는 메시지, 여러분 다시 한번 큰 박수 부탁드립니다.